guys ahead of me. You guys have no idea what we're going to be doing tonight.
Awesome.
So we are going to have an absolute blast.
Oh my God.
Are we playing hide and seek?
So, right now, we are in the basement. This building is over 174 years old now. It's almost 175, 176, somewhere around there. So, it's been many different things. Like I said, it was the school. It was the Women's Relief Corps. It was, right after that, it was called a place for soldiers, their wives, their widows, their sisters, their mothers. So basically, anybody that was related to military could retire here or come here. And then it became a place for women who had like dementia and were senile or had mild mental handicaps. And then during that time, we also had the asylum on the 4th floor, which we had the criminally insane, mentally insane, physically handicapped, and mentally handicapped. In 1956, they actually brought in a program called Opportunity Village. And this is where they brought in women prisoners from Marysville Prison. That's part of Ohio State Reformatory, but it's the women's division. It's still open today. And we'd house like 13 women down here, and they'd be brought in to be paroled, basically. They would teach them skills if they didn't know how to do something like writing or stuff like that. Plus, they would work on in the Madison home as caregivers, nurses' aides, cooking, cleaning, laundry, stuff like that. Most of these women were here for very petty crimes, like writing a bad check, petty theft, little things like that. But we did have 2 women here that were kind of here for some kind of horrible things. The first one was Dolly Hamilton. In 1939, she was performing illegal abortions out of her house. People brought, a husband and wife bring their daughter to her. She's 15 years old, she's pregnant by an 18-year-old man. She performs the abortion, she ends up dying from the abortion. So Dolly Hamilton gets charged with manslaughter in the 1st degree. So she ends up in Marysville in prison, and then she ends up here when she gets paroled. Back then they didn't give life sentence for manslaughter at all, so she only got 10 years, but she ended up here to be paroled. And she actually said that she did over 150 abortions out of her home, illegally. So hopefully that was the only one that died, but it's a shame that she was only 15. Then the other one was Blanche Jacobs. She actually killed 2 people. She was here for double homicide. In 1952, her and her husband lived down in Cincinnati, Ohio, and she was writing bad checks. She got caught, got like a slap on the wrist. He was very high ranking in the military. And so they were kind of embarrassed by it. So they moved to Columbus, Ohio within that year or so. 1956, she becomes very good friends with her landlords who live right next door to her. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, 73 and 74 years old. She starts writing bad checks on their account. She does over $1,400 worth of bad checks. Mrs. Robinson figures out it's her, calls her on the phone and tells her, I'm going to need my money back or I'm going to turn you in. She goes next door to talk to her. They had 2 kitchens. One was upstairs and one was downstairs. Mrs. Robinson was in the downstairs kitchen actually baking pies. Blanche comes in. They get into some kind of heated argument over what's going on. She picks up a rolling pin, hits her over the head with it. She falls to the ground. The husband hears the commotion. He comes down the stairs. She picks up a butcher knife, slices him to death. Turns around, Mrs. Robinson actually woke up and was trying to get out. She chased her down, dragged her back in, then sliced her to death. Took both of their bodies up to the upstairs bathroom, then cleaned the whole house with bleach. Goes home and tells her husband and small children, and along with neighbors, that the Robinsons went on vacation. After 3 days, neighbors were getting suspicious and asking questions because they didn't really go anywhere. They were elderly. They usually went like church, grocery shopping. They weren't gone for 3 days at a time. So she finally tells her husband, I killed the Robinsons. He doesn't believe her because I guess she was a very sweet lady. Was that one of you guys?
Yeah, that was his water bottle. That was his water bottle, yeah. That was right next to me. I heard it
So
too.
she turns herself in. She physically had to take him to the bodies. So then she turns herself in and she tries to plead insanity. She tries to starve herself. She tries to do all this stuff not to go to prison. Well, they proved that she was not insane. She ended up in Lima State Hospital for a short period. This happened in July of 1956. She ends up not being on trial until February of 1957. And she gets charged double homicide. She gets 2 back-to-back life sentences. She ends up here after only 4 short months in Marysville as somebody that takes care of the elderly. We're like, what? So we dug into things. I said her husband was very high-ranking in the military. This was always a military-ran building until the state took it over in the 70s. So we believe he had some kind of pull with how scared she was about going to prison with getting her here a little bit sooner. But the really weird thing is, while she was here, all of our superintendents from the Madison home lived in the building with their wife and children. She actually became like a nanny to our last superintendent, Delbert Nixon, his children. And we actually got to talk to them. They're still alive. They just moved back to Madison 2 summers ago, and they came out and they walked us all through the building, were telling us all about the history. And we asked her about Blanche, you know, and they're like, oh, she was our best friend. She was like the greatest lady ever. She'd make us pies. She'd get us off the bus. She'd play outside. And Mark, the one son, goes, yeah, she even went to my wedding when I was an adult. I'm like, what? So I guess everybody has a bad day once in a while. Yeah. So she did end up getting paroled when we closed as the Madison home and all that in 1975, and that's when the county took it over and stuff. So that's when she got paroled and she went to live with her grandchildren in Arizona, and she died down there. So I don't think she's here, but we do get a woman down here from time to time. I don't know how the afterworld works. I can't figure it out. I've been doing this like for 3 years, so I'm kind of a newbie. I don't know if we're able to, like, if we're talking about them, if they can come around because we're talking about them, but we do get a woman down here often. But there's also a man down here, and he's a little bit of a creeper. I actually call him the coward, jokingly, you know, so it's a joke. Because he hides in that bathroom. If you see me, I keep looking back there. He tends to hide in that bathroom and in the room with the beds, but he really likes women a lot, like in a perverse way. Women have reported having their hair touched, breasts on the neck, their butt getting touched, things like that. And we also did a study of it because we're like, we gotta figure this out, right? So we put like 5 men in this room and 4 or 5 women in that room. And we all took a K2, a REM pod, a mag light, and then we were recording. Everything was going off for us. They were getting nothing over here. So the one guy leaves that room because he wanted to record what we were getting. So he comes over. As soon as he reached the doorway, everything stopped working on us. We got nothing. And he goes, what, don't you want me here? And the mag light went boom to on right away. And I'm like, oh, that's freaky. So then he leaves and he comes over here. As soon as he gets in the room, we start getting stuff on everything again. The REM pod was going off, the mag lights, he was answering questions. So men they were rushed up on. Just that feeling of get out, or they'll get that as a recording, get out of here, stuff like that. People have had little stones thrown at them. I was actually on a flashlight tour, and I was actually what we call a watcher. That where somebody stands to make sure everybody stays together. And the tour guide was actually the owner, Adam. And I was standing right about where you two are back there. And another volunteer was with me being watchers. We had a big group, and all of a sudden we just hear this rock come flying, and it came from out of that room with the beds, and there was nobody in that room. They were all over here like this, and it landed right between me and her. I'm like, okay, coward, you're gonna throw things with my back stirred? So that's where coward came from.
It's probably drawing you in there. It's probably drawing you in there.
Probably.
Yeah.
We're gonna go straight across the hallway.
Put your feet out.
Absolutely. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but when I standing here, it went from a dusty, basic smell to a strong urine smell. I could smell urine very strong, and then it smelled almost like a formaldehyde. Did you get any of that?
When I came down here, it was a very musty smell.
I got
very
that.
musty smell.
I got that,
I
but then
didn't-
it strongly went to urine, and then it was almost a formaldehyde.
Hey, you never know. Like they said, it's attracted to women, right? Whatever's down here. So
It was just like,
maybe it
ooh,
was affecting you. And
it's, ooh.
you never know.
Nope, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, right. It's a bathroom. It's pretty cool. It's just basically old rooms. So yeah, this is the creepy basement. It's not terribly big, but it looks like one of those basements that could be cool down here. So here's another room. Got 3 beds in here. Couple balloons. Interesting. All right. There's the basement.
I did hear, so you never forget that formaldehyde with
Yeah.
the pitchy brushes.
Yes, yep.
And that's, it just kept changing, and I'm like, listen to
I
me.
was
like,
my witness, I
Okay.
said I smelled urine and formaldehyde in my house.
There you go.
Very
Huh,
good.
did you hear that, Joe? I saw him down there.
We do.
She
smell
said 3 days
urine
ago
in a
she was
certain
smelling
area,
urine and
but we're not
formaldehyde
into
at her
that
house.
area yet, so,
Wow.
yeah. So this is the
Not
dining
crazy
area. We're
yet.
now on the other side of
Just
the building.
about,
This would
but
be the
not
Madison
yet.
home.
We all
It was
are, right?
actually
A little
started
bit.
to be built.
I like
They ran out of
it.
room over there
They're
for
fun.
24 people. They had like almost 40 women at that time. So they built this side, and they started building in 1898, completed in 1901. The Women's Relief Corps actually finished being here until 1906. Then they donated it to the state, and that's when it became the Madison home, which was a place where women had to mention all that. So this would have been their dining area where they would, those that could come downstairs. We had had some that were wheelchair bound, bed bound, we had some that were about to die, so they couldn't come downstairs. So those, we actually have a dumbwaiter right here by the bathrooms that go all the way up to the 4th floor asylum. Unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. Those are the only 2 working bathrooms. We do have 9 bathrooms in this building, but those are the only 2 working ones, so please only use those 2. We have no water to any part of the building except for those toilets. So it'll be a hard time cleaning, so I'll probably make you clean it. Down here.
I'll just go down there, you won't notice with the urine smell.
When they bought, when the state took over the building, actually when the county took it over in 1975 when it closed as a Madison home, they had a big bonfire outside, and they actually bragged to us about it. They burnt wheelchairs, they burnt bedding, they burnt files, they burnt.
That's terrible.
They burnt all this stuff. So we don't have a whole lot. We're finding out a lot more now because we actually went down to Columbus to the library. They actually brought us out a big, huge box. We spent 6 hours there and still didn't get all the information they have. So we have to plan another trip down there. But we do have one picture of when it was the Madison home and it was actually operable and women were sitting here in the dining room. This is from 1943. I love it because it actually shows them. The picture was probably taken over here before the ramp was here, and it was right over there. You can actually see right up in here is the window and the radiator. So you can see exactly where the tables were.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're so cute in the little rooms. That's the kitchen area. We do have it closed off right now, only because we had pipes burst in the winter, and we had like 17 pipes burst in the building, which is why we only have water to the toilets now. You won't be able to wash your hands tonight. You have to use hand sanitizer. I apologize for that. Hopefully we get the sinks back up soon. But so we close this off because it does have some open stuff that we have to clean up before people can actually be in it. Down here we have a friendly ghost. We've nicknamed him Grandpa. We actually asked him on a recording, do you like to be called Grandpa? And he did tell us yes, so we continue to call him Grandpa. Some people call him the Whistler. He's a trickster. He likes to play jokes, like a grandpa would do. When you're in the bathrooms, pay attention out here. He tends to whistle a lot. That's one of the things people will hear is like the whistling. That's why they call him the Whistler. Or what sounds like something being thrown, or walking around, or it almost sounds like an older man that would be clearing his throat often, like type of thing. I always tell him a little secret because it does work. When I come in and go to the bathroom, I'm always like, Grandpa, I'm going to the bathroom, leave me alone. And I go to the bathroom, and I usually don't have any issues with him. 2 winters ago, it was freezing. It was negative 17 degrees. We had a public hunt. Like, half the people didn't show up, but it was the end of the night. We were down to just 1 guest left, and then like 4 of our crew were here. And they were all on the back porch. I come in, I forgot to say it to Grandpa because I'm like freezing, just trying to hurry up and do my business. Both of those doors are on a slow close. Well, I went into the women's, so they don't slam shut. I get into the stall, close the stall door, and the outside door just opens and slams. And so I come running out, I mean, I didn't even have hands down or nothing. I just come running out here. I'm like, what the heck? And I go running outside. They're exactly where they were when I left them. There's no way they could have ran up that ramp without me knowing it, you know? And they were still where they were, so there was nobody in here. So I come back and I'm like, Grandpa, that was not nice. It's cold. Let me go to the bathroom. So that was my second back to when we walked across the hall. We have our fire system. So as soon as you cross this threshold, and I will show you where it ends, it's just basically this hallway. So we're going to walk straight down this hallway. I try to show things I developed already. And you see those. Those are our hubs, which is right there.
It had to been done. It had to been done.
Some pictures she was talking about earlier. Back from the 40s. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So. There's where those old ladies would have probably sat. Down here, remember this was, all this stuff was not with the building itself at the time, so yeah, maybe we can get somebody to play the piano for us, right? So who knows? Very creepy old guy. Yeah. He is grandpa, huh? It just goes on and on and on and on.
They take her out, and they bring another dog in, the other dog in. That one, same thing, all through the building, didn't pick up on anything until just a little bit farther over this way, does a little pat and tell that something's here. So then they ask, can we bring a ground penetrating radar? For those of you who don't know, that's like an X-ray to the ground. Yeah. We're like, yes, because those are expensive to rent. So they did this whole basement area. They didn't do the whole building, they just did the basement. And when they got here, right around this area, about 2.5 foot down, they got an anomaly hit on it that was about the size of like a mini Nerf football. So they're like, can we dig? Well, we didn't know if this was support or what. So we're like, as long as you don't take down the building, you know, get somebody in here who knows what they're doing. So they did, they dug. And even they got down 2.5 foot, they found nothing. And even the guy that was digging, he's a regular contractor, he's actually local. And he's like, that doesn't make sense. There should be something here. Whether it be a tooth, a fingernail, something, there should be something there making enough gas to cause that bubble. So they actually went going down almost 3 foot, and they still didn't find anything. So they're like, okay, let's bring in an active canine unit. And they actually brought in our county's active canine unit. That dog didn't even make it to the hallway when you come across there. He didn't even make it out that door, and he was pulling this way and barking. So they're just like, let him go. He comes running down here, passes everything up, comes in here, runs over here, and jumps on the dirt pile that was still over here and doesn't pat and tell. So couple little different things with that. It rules out turn of the century for sure. Those dogs sense back 30 years. They can't really go much farther than that, maybe 32 years, you know, not much longer than 30 years. So it's definitely not turn of the century. But what are they picking up on? 30 years ago, this building was actually empty for 10 years. And people had access, like the county, people had access, they had keys to it. There was a maintenance man that worked here that had access. Plus, everybody knew this place was haunted. It was actually put in the newspaper in the 80s as for lease, caution may be haunted. So everybody knew this place was haunted. Everybody knew it was called, they used to call it the Nut House. So people would break in. So anything could have happened here. It's possible somebody might have been buried here and then moved. Or maybe we shouldn't listen to the technology. Maybe we should listen to the animals. Maybe she's over farther. So when you get a chance, if you look, we've actually started tunneling that way. We don't want to tear up the whole basement if nothing's here. So, because it's basically rumor. We don't have proof that anything ever happened other than the dogs we've been sent. And the people who brought the dog that day said, well, technically this should be an active crime scene. But then Joe Campbell's never even put it on their show about it, so we don't know. You know, and we've had a couple police officers. We actually have a volunteer that's a police officer. And he says that there's really not much they would do anyway. They'd probably come in and do the same thing, tunnel. So we're just going to do that. If we find anything, then we'll notify them. We actually did save the dirt from the hole. We were sifting through it to make sure we didn't miss a fingernail, a tooth, or something that came off that gas. Ever since I started coming here, the very first time I came in, I actually was drawn to the area where you guys are standing right now, like very strongly that way. Like they told me when we came here, like, oh, she's buried here in this floor right around this area. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm not a medium, I'm sensitive to things, but I'm not a medium by any stretch of the term. I wish I could do what you guys do. I'm trying, I'm learning, I'm trying. But I was just always, I mean, I even like was stood over here. I think I was stood like right around this area, and I was like, I'm really drawn to this. And this brick is weird. If you actually look at that brick, that is the old brick. If you look at the outside of the building, there is no reason for this to be here. It's not even actually support, because if you actually look up, it doesn't quite go all the way up. And it's literally brick after brick. We took out one brick over there, and it's more brick behind there. And you see where somebody has already taken it apart a couple times.
Yeah, makes you wonder what's behind it.
Right.
Because you're right.
And we had in the 1980s, the police department ran out of here. We had a retired police officer that came here and walked us to the building and told us stuff about the building. As he's getting in his truck to leave, he stops, he gets out, he looks at us, he goes, I guarantee if you tear apart that building brick by brick, you will find bodies.
Yeah.
He didn't say a body, he said bodies.
You can only imagine what's behind there.
Yeah, and he won't let anybody tell us his name, he wants to stay strictly anonymous. I mean, he doesn't want to be associated with this building at all.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go straight across the hallway here. We don't know for sure, even when it happened. The oldest girlfriend.
I didn't even notice
young,
she said
when she got getting around the year 87.
Yeah, so you gotta think about the way they boxed it out, and if there's no reason for it to be there.
Yeah, yeah. Joe, remember this tomorrow? Over here.
Oh yeah, we'll go over here. We'll go anywhere you want.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Cement mixer.
Yeah. That's kind of an odd feeling from there.
Yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah. Almost a real strong sense coming back out, Joe. I was standing with Miriam in that yellow chair, and something decided to hold my hand.
Oh yeah?
I love this stuff.
Yeah, crazy room.
When it was opening and functioning, it was a very active area, so we do get the residual down here. This wall is not original, this was actually put in like the 50s or 60s, I think it was the late 50s. The white wall, if you actually look behind it, you can see the old brick like that one room has. We get a report of a man that walks through that wall all the time, and he doesn't respond, we don't get any kind of action from him, so I almost feel like that's like more of a residual thing. But there is a man that also walks the whole area down here. I don't think he is residual. He actually greets me when I come in. He will actually just let me see him. So it's pretty cool that he lets me do that. It's actually just a full shadow figure. Like sometimes, I don't know if he doesn't realize I'm coming that day or something, and he'll be like, right, because we have to lock this laundry room door when you guys leave. So that way if anybody did break in here, at least they don't get that far. You know, so I have to unlock that. And usually when I unlock it, I'll either feel him right there, and I know he's going to be right there, or sometimes he's just standing back a little ways. But that way, one of our friends got an EVP of him saying his name was Roger. We don't know that is his name, but that is what I call him now. So I'm always like, that's your name now, your name's Roger. Hey buddy, what's up? So I always talk to him and stuff when I come in. But, so that, I think he's a more of an intelligent haunting because he seems to know when I'm here. I don't know, it's weird. But we also had K2s on these stairs. We had 3 of them. We had one set for yes, the bottom is no, the middle is unsure, unable to answer. And we were asking questions and they were answering them, lighting them up, not lighting up so far, going into like yellow, a little bit of red, once in a while. And then I'm like, okay, let's mix it up a little bit. And I started doing like 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, doing different stairs, lighting it up. So I'm like, okay, turn them all on. And I didn't think it was gonna happen. If you guys have done this, you know how much energy it takes for a spirit to do that. All 3 of them, all the way red, all at the same time. And I'm like, yes, thank you. And then right after that, it got completely quiet down here. I'm like, ooh, we probably used up all their energy. So I did give them, I'm like, it's a little bit for me, but not a lot. Debunkable down here though. One thing that is debunkable. In that closet right there behind you guys, there is a laundry chute that goes all the way up to the 4th floor of the asylum. I imagine you guys are going to be separated tonight a little bit. So if you were we have laundry chute doors. The way to remember where you're at, when we go upstairs, you'll see what I mean. As soon as you get up from the first floor, or any of the floors, you walk through a little doorway, and then you either go right or you can go left. And it's a U, so you won't get lost. You just make yourself back to the U. Left-hand side, laundry chute, L. So that is where there's a little door on the wall. So there's gonna be another door on the right-hand side, that's a dumbwaiter. But if you stand in front of the laundry chute doors and are talking kind of loud, it will travel down here. It'll sound like people talking farther away, or like a whisper. But
Just like any
literally,
other
if
haunted
you walk
place.
into that closet and listen, you will hear that it's coming from there. We do get disembodied voices down here, so check there first before you assume it's a disembodied voice. Does anybody watch Destination Fear? Destination Fear, anybody? No? Because the one girl, Chelsea Lincoln, they were here, and she slept right there on the floor. And when they came through, we didn't tell them about the activity we did on the outside because they didn't ask. We do give a lot of activity outside. And they had a camera facing this way because she was sleeping like where that washing machine was. And early morning, they get a shadow figure walking across you see it in the window on the outside. And they didn't know that exactly where we see a man in a black cloak that walks around down there. And this guy was a full black shadow caught on film. And Chelsea had no idea when they did the reveal. I don't know if you guys saw it. She screams all the time. She's a screamer. And
For Destination Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched
yeah,
it.
and when she saw it, she was like, "What? This is close to me." She was freaking out. But it was like validation for us. We actually had a big thing when we went and did like a premiere party at the hotel, and we watched it live as it first came out. So that was like confirmation to all of us that have seen that guy, because we didn't tell them about it. So it was like,
That's nice.
yeah, I like confirmation.
I recorded it, I watched that on Facebook.
All right, we're gonna start heading out. Old sitting room, like where they would come in when family would come over and they would take a break in the family room. Superintendent's office, and then this side, I said like the superintendents all lived in the building. This is where they actually lived. And if you look there, that rectangle that's cut out weird in the ceiling here and there, those are the old staircases. They used to be wooden and they come down in a Y. The county put those in when they were here in the 80s because these were deemed unsafe due to fire reasons. So they had to put in the metal stairs, or cement stairs, whatever they're made of.
Wow.
We're actually going to go this way because I have a story to tell you about one of the superintendent's wives. But I have to show you the rooms to explain it.
Here, she is, it's because the hospice area.
They wouldn't use red, black, even like a dark coat, they would use something, they would use like lavender, just peaceful colors. But this one is long. So now, when the next children came out, they actually walked us through the like I said, first what each room was. When they lived here, and all the other superintendents, that one room, that was the police officer, and the dining room. These two were living rooms, that were like family living room, we had gas, and we had family living room. They were here. These are both bedrooms. Want to see something really cool? Like, when the Nixons were here, they came and opened this door, and they're like, is it still here? This is their dad's hello sticker. You could actually see the last name. Nixon, his name was Delbert.
Oh, I'll be
And it's
darned.
still there.
Oh, my name
Isn't
is.
that cool?
Yeah, because he had gone to a meeting somewhere and he just stuck it up here, and they remembered when he did it. So they came and checked, it's still, and it's still there. I said, it will always be there as long as I'm here.
Wow, that's cool.
You guys can just come in or hang out wherever. trying to talk loud so everybody can hear. I know it's a bit crowded in here. Oh, and you guys want to nap? It's got like a memory foam.
Is that the tip plate right here?
That's, if you want to leave an offering, that's what people do. I don't do it, but other people. Some people believe that you leave offerings for spirits and they will talk to you better. I just use respect.
Yeah, what do they have?
People believe that if you leave offerings that, yeah, it's not like, it depends, like, I know with Cajun and like voodoo stuff, that they leave like coffee and herbs and stuff you leave for offerings. Right. Some people say flowers, you know, money for some. There's another room that has a lot of money in it, and I'll explain that when we get to that room. But this one, I don't know why they started leaving it here. That's actually a rumor. But we had 4 superintendents that were here from 1904 to 1975 when it closed. We had Commander Weber was the first one. Then we had Mr. Neal, he was the second one. Then we had Captain Wheeler, who was the third, and then Delbert Nixon was the fourth and final. 1911, Mr. Neal and his wife and her stepdaughter, his daughter, moved into the building. They actually sold like all their property, everything to move in here because he was going to be superintendent. A couple months after being here, they get wind. There's actually a newspaper article about it, talking about how the guy before him, Commander Weber, didn't want him here because he was not military. He had never served in the military. He didn't think he belonged here because all these people were military that he was caring for. So he was trying to push him out. Supposedly, Mary, his wife, gets a word of this, and that night she commits suicide in the building. They said that she was in her bedroom. They had separate bedrooms, his bedroom and her bedroom. She left her bedroom, went through his bedroom, out to the living room, out to get a glass of water, came back the same way, stopped, kissed him on the forehead, came in here, grabbed bed sheets, and wrapped around the 1911 revolver, then shot herself through the heart. And then her 15-year-old stepdaughter finds her the next morning. Bunch of red flags with that. First one is, he's sleeping right there. Stepdaughter's across the hall in one of these rooms, or she could possibly be in this room. I don't know which room was hers, but she was in one of these 3 rooms right here. They don't find her till morning. Nobody heard the gunshot. I don't care if it's right. I don't care how many bedclothes you wrap around that.
Yeah.
And literally, if you guys were in the 4th floor asylum and I screamed, you would hear it. So you would hear a gunshot. It would echo through this building. There were patients here. There were doctors and nurses that were staying on this side. There were doctors and nurses staying on this side too. So I mean, how did nobody hear it? Was my first question. Another thing is, most women do not commit suicide by shooting themselves. If they do, it's not in the heart. It's usually straight through the head where they know they're going to die, or they try not to leave a mess. So they'll do pills, they'll hang themselves. Or if they cut their wrist or something, they usually do it in a tub because they don't want to leave a mess. It's just how women are. So that was kind of weird too. But I said stepdaughter, which means he was married before. So I had to find out what happened to his first wife. Who coincidentally, his name was Mary also. She dies of a broken heart a few years prior to them moving in here, before he got married to the other guy. So people don't die of a broken heart for no reason. Usually something very tragic happens for it to actually be deemed. Her obituary says she died of a broken heart. So we looked into that. We had to figure out why, what happened. We find a small little article. It just says that he had killed his firstborn daughter. She had done a mild infraction, and then he punished her, and she dies from that punishment. That's all it says. It doesn't say what she did, didn't say what he did. It just says basically he killed his daughter by punishment. We don't know what he did to kill her. So that's 3 women in his life right away that you're like, why? So then it actually gets a little bit crazier. After he retires, the daughter was 15, is now living on a road right through. It's called Wood Road. She was married to Mr. Wood. He comes to live with her. She dies 6 months later. She runs out in front of her car that is only less than 20 feet away from her. Witnesses said, there's no way she didn't see that car. I don't think she committed suicide. I think he had something to do with it. Or something happened, because there's no way, I don't know, I don't believe in coincidences, so. It aggravates me. I feel like she needs her story told. We actually just found this out a year ago. So it's like new information. We didn't even know she killed herself in the building. I just found all this out during COVID. We shut down for COVID. That's why I did our demo and a bunch of research. The only reason that got me looking into him was his matron was a woman named Emma Jane Marshall. And most of the other people, their matrons were their wives. Well, his wasn't, but it said he was married. And where's his wife? Why was she matron? That's what got me looking into it. And then I've come across those articles. And then we actually found more stuff as we dug into him, that while he was here, he was very mean to Miss Emma G. Marshall, his matron. People were writing letters to the board trying to get him thrown out, the elderly here, saying he was mean to women, he was hitting her, he would call her an imbecile and a damn fool, which back then don't sound like a bad thing now, but back then doing that to a woman in public definitely wasn't funny. Then he started taking, the women that were here came here for free, and they got to keep their pensions. And he starts taking their pensions, only giving them $10 a month, telling them it was their husbands that fought in the war, they don't deserve the pension. He dies in 1939 with a net worth of over 52 million in 1939, which is billions of dollars today.
Yeah.
He died alone on his front porch in Florida.
Wow.
Lay there for 2 days before a neighbor found him.
That's where I want to go.
Right?
So that's why I don't think he was a very good person.
It doesn't sound like it.
I'm going to go. Might as well be Florida.
Right?
Right.
So this says, I was telling you guys, long or short door. This says the little one. Left side.
This guy creeps me out just a tiny bit.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It is cool.
There's another dog.
Kind of reminds me of Saw.
They got beds all in here. Yeah, I could have stayed here tonight.
Right? My kids. I wonder why they cover just the mirrors.
Ah, maybe a reflection.
Oh, that's possible for the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, yeah. That makes sense.
So then we'll go up the floor, go up, and we'll go again, choose the asylum. But we've had stuff happen on this floor. The one day during the day, me and another volunteer, you may actually be here tonight, Denise, she'll probably be here later tonight. We were in the room over here, and we were cleaning. And I'm standing there, she used to be a real big chicken when she was starting. She's still a little bit of a chicken, but not as bad. She used to literally carry 6 flashlights with her. We used to always tease her. And I'm standing there and I hear, hello. A woman say hello. And I just keep doing what I'm doing so she doesn't get freaked out. And she goes, is that what we're doing today? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, kind of like we didn't hear that. I said, hear what? And she goes, that woman saying hello, Shelly. And I'm like, The same room. We had the ghost, the shortest ghost hunt ever. Me, with me and Kate, and another officer, Chelsea, were in that same room. We were actually investigating. We had to do like this. They left super early for some reason. So we were like, hey, we're investigating. So we come in, and they're both kind of scared of cats. They all have fun.
This is pretty cool.
They're both like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, we're fine. You're with me, we'll be fine. We sit down at a table and we have another brand new baby. Like, what's up, a brand new baby? Let me know that. I know that's not. I know that's not. And we're all there, so like, looking at each other. There's no way this baby's being other than today. That's what we're here, but we have no problem with it. So then we turn on, we have Cassie Black with us. And I have a spirit that I believe now has crossed over, but she used to always be here with me. Her name is Agnes, and she's like born with me in New York. She would come over across the spirit box or wherever and say, please, we need to go, something like that. We should never need to go until that. You're not the person, reserve a way, which says, you need to go. And we're like, okay. We love. Those are grocery. Sure. And we're gonna head out from that. We're ready to
Doing some construction. Guys, we might be able to pick up some good stuff. Oh, this is gonna be a fantastic night, and tomorrow night. So I think everybody went downstairs. pretty awesome. So they got room numbers on the door. See, they painted over them. Snapping pictures as I go, you never know, right? All right, I'm gonna get off of here, and this looks fun. So, later.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. As you see, when I start talking about the history, I will start losing my breath up here, because it feels literally like somebody's sitting on my chest.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Real presence watching us right now.
I got vertigo, I'll be honest with you, standing here. Please,
Oh, you're fine.
I'm gonna shut up.
So, right now you guys are standing, welcome to Madison Seminary, I forgot that part. Right now you guys are standing in the whole oldest part of the building. It was actually chartered in 1845, and it was originally a wooden structure. And then in 1847, they built this brick structure. It was a school for boys between the ages of 15 to 18. They would come here and they could actually graduate with like college degrees to be a doctor, a lawyer, a minister, teacher, did I ever say that? Just basic few things, you know, but I was surprised that they were able to actually teach them doctorate in here. That was like one of the things I was surprised about. Then in 1889, the Women's Relief Corps purchased the building and made a place for women that were misplaced during the Civil War. Our most famous being a woman named Elizabeth Stiles. Are you guys all from Ohio or no? Pretty much. You know where Ashtabula is? She was born and raised in Ashtabula. At 5 years old, she knew how to shoot a gun. By the time she was 15, she actually knew nursing skills and seamstress skills that she had learned from her mother. Then in 1862, she moved down to the Kansas-Missouri border with her husband, Jacob. Well, back then you were either Confederate or you were Union. She was a very big supporter of the Union. So every day as a school teacher, she would go out and she'd raise the, That's weird. Can you put it up and see if it's electrical? No, somebody likes you. Sorry. Then 1862, she moved down there. She raised the Union flag. And the Confederates actually saw her do that one day, and they told her if she did it again, they were going to kill her. Excuse my French, but she was a badass. The very next day, she went out and she raised that flag again. Of course, they saw her do it. They followed her to her home, found out where she lived, went and found Union soldiers, killed them, took their uniforms, went back to her house at nightfall. They knock on the door, her and her husband answer the door together, and they ask her, when they open the door, they say, "What are your politics?" Right away, seeing Union soldiers, they say Union. They shoot him, he falls to the floor. They actually take the muzzle of the gun, put it in his mouth, and blow off his head in front of her. She runs, tries to get out the back door, they raise the gun to shoot her, and the leader stops the guy and says, "Don't shoot her, she's too pretty to shoot." So she gets away. They will regret that later though. She decides to join the army as a Union nurse, and while she's there and these Confederates are coming in injured, she's milking them for information. And Abraham Lincoln actually finds out about this, writes her a letter and asks her to be a Union spy. She agrees right away, and she actually takes her adopted daughter with her, who was only 13 at the time. Her name was Clara. And together they would pose as a grandmother and a granddaughter that were looking for the granddaughter's injured Confederate soldier. So they were so good at their jobs, they actually got caught, and she convinced them she was working for them. They brought back brand new ammunition, a brand new horse, food, all this stuff that she brought right back to the Union. And the reason she's so near and dear to our hearts is she actually lived the last 4 years of her life here. She died here and she's buried at the cemetery that's up the road. We used to actually own that cemetery. We used to have 170 acres, we're down to about 3 acres now. But, so at one point, they used to have it like a working farm, they would have where they bury their sick and their dead on property. There was also another Union spy that was here, her name was Mary Truesdale. We do not have a lot of information on her. We've asked history, we've gone to the libraries. Most we could find is she was registered as a Union spy, she was from the state of Alabama, and she was married to a man named Asa. And that's all they have on record for her. I actually did just reach out to, last week, to the Alabama historical thing down by where she lived there to see if they could send me anything, if they knew anything. So I'm hoping to find out more about her, but she actually died here and she's buried down there too. Along with 92 other women that died in this part and are buried down there. But between both sides, there have been a total of 201 deaths that were documented. There would have been many with the insane asylum and all that did not get documented. Paranormal on this floor, this is probably one of the most active areas in this building besides the basement and this side. People have reported women talking, it almost sounds like you're walking into a conversation like they're chatting with each other. We've had disembodied voices, there's a 7-foot tall shadow man that walks the floor. A lot of people say that he like walks in between the rooms, so I almost feel like he's probably like a superintendent or something, or maybe a principal of the school. He's just checking up on things. But he doesn't just stay on this side. People have reported him also on the other side and outside. So I actually saw him myself. He was in this room and I was actually in that room, and another volunteer actually saw him with me. So it was pretty cool that we both saw it. Middle of the day, we were cleaning here. We were actually on the floor down below. It was me and 2 other volunteers. We were the only 3 people in the building. I was in one room. They were down in another room cleaning, and we kept hearing footsteps up here. So they ran up here real quick. Of course, there's nobody up here. They come back down. We start hearing the footsteps again. They were still in the other room, and I actually walked out. I was about this far up into the hallway, and I saw a shadow run up the stairs. And as I got up here, we actually heard the footsteps again. So it was pretty cool. One of my first times ever seeing a shadow figure with that incident. Most of the furniture in the building is pretty much sittable. You can kind of look at things and see. We ask that you don't really sit in the wheelchairs too much because a lot of them are very, very fragile. Like this one's made for a kid, so it's not really supposed to hold an adult. It's pretty much common sense. You can pretty much look at things. This room here, though, all of our furniture is donated. We don't have anything original to the building besides the building itself. This chair in particular, people claim, we've had a couple mediums come through and tell us that there is a woman attached to this chair. Her name is Linda. The one was telling us that she's kind of an old, elderly, grumpy lady, but then the other lady says, no, she's not grumpy. She doesn't like when people swear around her. So I don't go in this room much because I have a mouth like a sailor. So I just say hi, Linda. I go and change their books all the time from pages. So because I wouldn't want to, if I was in the afterworld, I wouldn't want to read the same page over and over again. So when I'm here, I turn their pages. So I just come in, hi, Linda. I'm just in for a minute. But that's about it. People have reported that rocking chair rocking on its own. I have never seen that myself, but that is something that has been reported for actually a couple years now. We're gonna skip right over to the next floor just so we can get you guys started, because it's been the same thing. School, women's relief corps, same kind of activity. We're gonna go straight to the creepy basement.
Yay!
If you have any questions, just let me know.
That's funny she mentioned that. That's the creepy chair she was talking about. They would rock on its own. This place is pretty cool. So we'll take it to another room real quick before I go down to the basement. It's gonna be awesome for the documentary tomorrow. The wheelchair at the end of the hall. Only one up here. I'm just trying to get some video of all the rooms that we got here. All right, I'll see you down in the basement. So, see you later.